The story starts by telling us that the Demon King defeated the hero. We see him sitting on a mountain, giving a cool, dominating pose among the corpses of heroes. It gives us more information that humanity gathered various barrier mages to counter the Demon King and his army. In this era, many generations of heroes challenged the Demon King, but kept losing, as we are shown the graves of the fallen heroes. Time shifts, and after 30 years, we see Blake, a barrier mage, yawning as he gets ready and steps out of his wooden house. He looks up and says, "You're still energetic today," as we see he's talking to a group of terrifying monsters stopped by the barrier. Continuing, he touches the barrier and says, "The barrier is getting weak," and casts a super high-level magic circle, which illuminates his surroundings in blue light, strengthening the barrier. He remarks, "The barrier's effectiveness is decreasing day by day, and the power required to keep it up is increasing tremendously." He then adds, "I hope someone successfully defeats the Demon King." The scene shifts to the Demon King's castle, where we see a final face-off between the Demon King and the hero. They both run toward each other with the intent to kill. The Demon King prepares a claw glowing with blue light, while the hero switches her sword, now engulfed in divine power. As they slash at each other, we see the hero emerging victorious. The Demon King, shocked, wonders how he could have lost. Holding his wound, he dies while spouting trash talk and making excuses. We see the hero, happy about their victory, exclaiming that they've finally defeated the Demon King. She asks the other heroes to raise a victory cry. Suddenly, blue light engulfs the Demon King's castle. Meanwhile, Blake is surprised by what is happening as all the monsters in front of him are defeated. He asks, could the Demon King have been defeated by the heroes? Excitedly, he adds, "The miasma is disappearing." Relieved, he says, "The heroes defeated the Demon King. With the monsters and miasma gone, the world will be at peace now." He continues, reflecting that everyone can now live in peace, and wonders aloud about the 30 years he has spent maintaining the barrier. He asks himself if there will be any kind of reward. 1 month later, we see some figures arrogantly standing in front of Blake's house. They declare, "You are not needed now." Surprised, Blake asks, "Not needed? What do you mean?" One of them replies arrogantly, "You've been wasting public funds on a useless barrier. You money-grubbing fraud." Blake tries to explain that he's been maintaining the barriers to prevent miasma and monsters from entering, but they refuse to listen. They push him out of his house and sneer, "We don't want to hear anything. What can a bottom-tier barrier mage do?" They kick him, shouting, "Get out of here. This land and hut belong to the government." Blake, while walking away feeling dejected, says he worked for 30 years and never thought this day would come. As he walks through the jungle, he thinks his only option now is to return to the village where he lived as a child. We see him arrive at Hateno village and enter the Adventurers Guild. Inside, he is collecting his reward and complaining that the reward is too small. An old woman, looking at him arrogantly, tells him not to complain because he is just a barrier mage. Blake thinks to himself that he can't go on like this. He's been working hard all this time and begins to question if barrier mages are really useless. The next day, as Blake enters the Adventurers Guild, he thinks that he has no other choice. He has to work at the guild, even if the pay is low, since barrier mages aren't getting any jobs. He goes to the reception and begs for work, saying he'll take anything, even if the pay is too little. However, the fatty old woman at the desk tells him there's no work left for him, adding, "No one requests barrier mages anymore." Everyone around laughs at him, mocking that there should at least be weeding or other odd jobs for him, but even those won't be given to him because he's a barrier mage. Blake feels dejected, but right at that moment, there's a knock at the door. Blake looks back, and we see a guard entering, asking if there is anyone named Blake there. Everyone is shocked, wondering why royal knights would come to such a place. They start whispering, asking if Blake did something wrong. Nervously, Blake steps forward and introduces himself. The guard gives him a sharp look, making Blake feel tense and wonder what's happening. Breaking the silence, the guard says, "We are here on Hero Alex's orders, and you will be coming to the royal capital. Is that alright with you? Everyone is stunned. They can't believe that a lowly barrier mage has been summoned by the hero. Blake accepts, still in disbelief. The guard continues, apologizing for the rush, but they need to leave immediately. He asks Blake to get into the carriage as he gestures toward it. At least someone here doesn't make me want to punch them. Meanwhile, everyone else panics, wondering if Blake is really just a barrier mage. Some even ask whether they should apologize. As the carriage starts moving, Blake notices how comfortable the ride is, but feels out of place. He wonders why he's being summoned by the hero. Then, we get a surprising revelation. Blake remembers that he once saved the hero. He wonders if this could be the reason for the summons. As they reach Hendria, the royal capital, Blake is amazed by the sheer size of the city. Having never seen one before, he can't help but marvel at its grandeur. The carriage continues until they arrive at the castle. Blake is seen walking alongside the guard captain through the castle halls when suddenly a voice calls out, "You came, Blake. I've been waiting for you." Blake is surprised to see hero Alice standing in front of him, arms open. The hero continues, "Do you remember me? You helped me near the demon realm." Blake responds, "Of course, I remember." The hero feels relieved and goes on to thank him for that time when she had been separated from her companions and thought it was the end for her, but he saved her. Blake humbly replies, "I didn't do much. I just happened to help your companions too." The hero, excited, says her companions wanted to meet him as well, but they're busy with ceremonies. She apologizes for their absence. She then asks enthusiastically, "What are you doing now? Your barrier work is finished, right? Someone like you should be in high demand." Blake, feeling ashamed, says, "Nothing is decided," while internally admitting the truth, he's unemployed. The hero, happy and brimming with energy, offers him a position in the Royal Magician Corps. Everyone present is shocked. One mage, named Gunther, arrogantly remarks, "The Royal Magician Corps is the elite of the elite. A lowly barrier mage isn't qualified to join." The hero explains, "It was barrier mages who maintained the barrier that suppressed the monsters in miasma, ensuring everyone's safety." Gunther, giving an arrogant smile, retorts with a punchable smugness, "The monsters were only afraid of magicians and hesitated to attack. The barrier merely prevented the miasma, but that could have been handled by magic as well." In other words, barrier mages are trash. Blake, listening to this, wonders, so right now, everyone thinks barrier mages are useless. But 30 years ago, they were still recognized. To think their value has fallen this much in just 30 years. Even though I've worked so hard all this time. He clenches his fists in frustration. Gunther continues, "This guy's job is outdated. Barrier mages are for promising young people, not some middle-aged man with no skills." Alicia's smile fades as she seriously asks, "So if he has skills, then it's fine, right?" Gunther, with a smug expression, happily replies, "Yes, if he has enough skills to beat me." Alicia says, "So, he just has to beat you, the 5th Division's vice captain." Gunther arrogantly looks at Blake and says, "Of course. He's applying for a mid-career position at his age. We can't accept him unless he's ready for immediate action." Alicia turns to Blake and asks, "What will you do?" Blake, nervous, stammers, I. But Alicia confidently says, "I believe you can win." The scene shifts to the training ground, where Blake and Gunther stand facing each other. Blake wonders, "How did it come to this?" "I just came because I was summoned," Gunther arrogantly announces. "I am the vice captain of the 5th Division of the Royal Magicians. Don't complain, even if you die." He prepares a massive fireball and launches it toward Blake. As the blast hits, fire engulfs the area. Everyone cheers, assuming it's over. As expected of Vice Captain Gunther, someone exclaims. Gunther smugly turns away, saying, "This is what happens when a mere barrier mage gets cocky," and laughs. But then he hears a voice behind him. He turns to see Blake, standing completely unfazed, asking, "Has the exam started yet?" Everyone, including Gunther, is shocked. How is he standing unscathed? They murmur. Gunther, stunned, thinks, impossible. I cast that magic with the intention to burn him to ashes. How did he make it out unscathed? Gunther regains his composure and says, seems like I went easy on you. Let's see if you can handle this. He prepares another attack, saying, I'll get more serious this time. He launches another fireball. Blake calmly raises his hand and casts a barrier. Gunther begins a barrage of fireballs, shouting, burn, burn, burn to ashes. Everyone watching is shocked. That's too much. No one can survive that. Meanwhile, Blake is thinking, this is weird. His magic power feels so weak. Is he going easy on me? If not, it doesn't add up. Gunther, panting, asks, he's dead, right? But as the smoke clears, he sees Blake standing there, completely unharmed, striking a cool pose. Gunther, now panicking, shouts, why are you still alive? He thinks, how can this be? My opponent is just a low-level barrier mage. Still arrogant, Gunther says, you're just trash. Even if you can defend, it's meaningless if you can't attack. If you're so frustrated, try attacking me. Blake raises his hand and says, then I'll do it. Gunther, confused, asks, what are you talking about? How could a barrier mage attack? Suddenly, a barrier slams into Gunther's face, sending him flying. Everyone gasps in shock. How could the vice captain be blown away? Gunther, struggling to get up, demands, what did you do? Barrier mages shouldn't be able to attack. Blake replies, I just moved my barrier. Gunther, surprised, exclaims, how can this be? Barriers are supposed to be stationary. Moving them doesn't make any sense. Blake humbly replies, after 30 years of setting up barriers, I've gotten the hang of it. He pauses and adds, barriers usually can't be moved. Would this be considered cheating? The crowd begins murmuring among themselves. He's overwhelming the vice captain without even taking any damage. Is he really this strong? Gunther, angry and humiliated, thinks, why do I have to lose to such trash? This isn't good. I have to beat him. He looks back at one of his fellow mages, who seems to understand the unspoken signal. The mage nods and begins preparing something. Suddenly, a fire ignites behind Blake and explodes, rushing toward him. However, the flames are stopped as a barrier appears behind Blake just in time. Everyone is stunned. Blake, unconfused, wonders, did something hit me? Was it a stone? Gunther, in disbelief, mutters, what is this guy? The barrier. It activated on its own? Alicia, watching with a serious expression, thinks to herself, this has gone far enough. I've shown them enough proof. There won't be a next time. Gunther, still desperate, begins preparing another fireball. His mind races. What a disgrace. I won't let it end like this. Fueled by rage and determination, he unleashes his full power, thinking, if I don't kill him, Alicia-sama will be disappointed in me. As Gunther starts chanting, the gathered crowd begins to panic. He's about to cast advanced magic. Someone yells. People scream and scramble to get away, fearing the destructive power Gunther is about to unleash. Gunther shouts, I'll kill you with my full power. Die. As he launches a massive beam of fire toward Blake, Alicia watches confidently, thinking, advanced magic can't be blocked by an ordinary barrier. But if it's him, he won't lose. As she recalls the past, we see a memory of Blake standing in front of a horde of monsters, calmly preparing his barriers. Alicia, younger and inexperienced, is shocked as Blake swiftly eliminates all the monsters with precision and ease. Back in the present, Blake raises his hand, casting the same magic. The barrier magic tears apart the flames launched at him, dissipating the advanced spell effortlessly. Gunther, overwhelmed, collapses to his knees. Impossible. How? How can my strongest magic not work? Everyone in the crowd murmurs, shocked. The vice captain's mana is completely depleted. Does this mean the barrier mage won? Alicia steps forward and announces proudly, the barrier mage has won. This proves that he has what it takes to join the royal mage squad. I swear, after this much rage bait, if he doesn't join the squad, I don't know what I'll do. Gunther, still on his knees, looks like he wants to argue, but Alicia cuts him off. He has been setting up barriers in the demon world to protect humanity for 30 years. That's quite an achievement, isn't it? Gunther, refusing to accept his defeat, retorts, it's not just about strength. There should be other barrier mages besides him. What happened to them? He shouts for investigators and demands they come forward. I don't know what's wrong with this guy. Moments later, the investigator arrives, holding a grim expression. He reveals a terrifying truth. According to our investigation, there are no other barrier mages. Gunther, in disbelief, stammers. How can this be? The investigator continues, due to various reasons, the other barrier mages either died or abandoned their duties while embezzling funds. Over time, they gradually disappeared. As a result, Blake was the only one maintaining the barriers in the demon world, all by himself. Blake, utterly shocked, finally understands why the mana required to maintain the barrier kept increasing year after year. So that's why, he murmurs to himself. Gunther, still refusing to accept the truth, shouts, don't lie. Do you even understand how vast the demon world is? It's bigger than the entire kingdom. Are you saying he was maintaining such a barrier all by himself? Alicia, looking confident and slightly amused, thinks to herself, Blake Kun, you're even crazier than I expected. Suddenly, a commanding voice comes from behind. What's with all this commotion? Gunther turns, his eyes widening in shock as he sees none other than Captain Lancelot of the 1st Division. Everyone in the room gasps. Stunned, it's their first time seeing the legendary Lancelot in person. Lancelot steps forward, his piercing gaze fixed on Gunther. Explain yourself. What's going on here? Alicia steps in before Gunther can respond, calmly addressing Lancelot. I recommended Blake, the barrier mage, to join the Royal Magician Corps, but Gunther doubted his abilities, so they conducted a practical test. Lancelot looks at Gunther and says coldly, it seems like you lost. Gunther, shocked and panicked, stammers, oh no, here we go again. He starts making excuses, saying, I was going easy on him. It's not mature to go all out against a barrier mage. Lancelot raises a hand, cutting him off. Enough. Stop with your pathetic excuses. Gunther looks displeased but stays silent as Lancelot continues. Regardless of one's title, if they have the skills, they will be allowed to join. He then turns to Blake and announces, Blake, you are now officially a member of the Royal Magician Corps. The room erupts with mixed reactions. Some are shocked, asking how a barrier mage is being allowed to join. Others argue that since Blake defeated the vice captain, he clearly deserves the position. Blake stands silently, processing the moment. The day has finally come when I'm accepted into the Royal Magician Corps. But can someone like me, who has spent 30 years just maintaining barriers, really make it here? Stop being so naive, Blake. It's so frustrating. Alicia, grinning happily, walks up to Blake and congratulates him. I knew you could do it. I believed in you. Blake, feeling embarrassed, replies humbly, no need to thank me. It's all because of you. Alicia beams and says, it's fine. Let's celebrate. Come on, let's go eat. But before she can drag Blake away, Lancelot steps forward and interrupts. Alicia, do you think this is the right time to celebrate? Alicia freezes, looking stunned. Lancelot continues sternly, you still have work to do. Get back to it. We see Alicia being dragged away by Lancelot, pouting and making a cute, defeated face. Lancelot turns to Blake and speaks. You seem to be quite favored by Lady Alice. What kind of relationship do you two have? Blake, feeling a little nervous, answers honestly. We're just acquaintances. Lancelot narrows his eyes slightly and continues. There are many people who try to get close to the hero for personal gain. I hope you're not like them. Blake shakes his head quickly. I'm not, he replies sincerely. Lancelot gives him a final look before walking away. As Lancelot departs, the scene shifts to Gunther, who is standing nearby, watching everything. His fists are clenched, and his teeth are grinding in frustration. By the looks of it, he hasn't learned his lesson. The journey for Blake is just starting. Who knows how many rage-inducing moments lie ahead. If you've made it this far, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment to show your support for the next part.